So just kind of trying to get set up and then we'll get going. So welcome to the Sole Trader Live development stream. Kind of cutting it a bit fine today, starting at exactly 2. Normally I start a few minutes early. But we should be up and running now. Apologies for running a little bit late. It's mostly because I've been frantically posting updates. Let me just close all my windows down to try and get everything ready and everyone communicated with, which is extremely important. So it's been a little while since I've been working on the game. I've just spent a week in North Wales, which has been fantastic. It's amazing how tired, oh, that sounds hopeful. It's amazing how tired you can feel after doing a Kickstarter. It's incredible how much it takes it out of you. And I really needed a good break. And I've had a few days off. It's been fantastic. But I'm really looking forward to getting back into the game. So in case you missed it, I'm not sure how it's even possible that you might have missed it. But if in case you missed it, Sole Trader was successfully funded. Woohoo! Which is very exciting. So yeah, really excited by that. We did really well. I'm just putting up the various windows that I need and closing all the windows that I don't. There we go. So yes, we got successfully funded, and it's all very exciting. So yeah, really cool about that. Let me just pause backups. Yeah, we don't want to be running backups at the moment because that just slows everything down. So apparently we're dropping 24% of our frames, which is pretty bad. 40% of our frames. I'm guessing that probably just happened at the beginning. Let's just make sure that Twitch is happy about what's going on. And that we're actually live. Oh, let me just move this down. Close the stuff down. Let's just pop that one up there only. Don't need that. Don't need that. Yeah, it sounds like it's working. Now I have a big advert, so I'm guessing that it's working, so that's cool. Cool, so I better just pull up the chat and make sure that I'm not... yeah, well that's cool. Hello guys. Let me just pop out the chat so I don't lose it. So, looking forward to getting back into live streaming. So it's been a little while since I've been able to do this regularly. I did one during the Kickstarter, but to be honest, the Kickstarter is so insanely, crazily busy that it was impossible to really get much in at all. So I'm kind of glad that, that in some ways that's over now, that I'm able to kind of crack on with getting stuff done. So let me just get set up here. So I haven't touched the code for quite a while, probably a week or so. That's a reasonable amount of time to not be in a code base. So I'm a little bit concerned about how this is going to go. I'm sure it's going to be amazing, but you never know. So let me just kind of get set up here. I need to be able to see that. Okay, so in case you haven't seen the game, it's probably worth me actually loading the game. Why don't we do that and have a look through it? That will remind me of everything that I still need to do on it. So yeah, the Kickstarter was funded. That's really cool. The release date that we've got of the game is in April. So we've got a lot of work to do. I've just today published on the Kickstarter which update page and also on the forums, the Sole Trader development board. So this is something new. Let's see, on news and updates, if you go to here, back to work, and then here's a little post about what I've been up to, and then if you click on that link there, you will get the Sole Trader development board. Now this allows you to basically see everything that I'm working on, which is pretty cool, and everything that I've got planned, which is a heck of a lot. So that's the backlog that we've got there. That's the kind of high-level list of stuff still to do. This is stuff I'd love to do if I have time. So don't necessarily take this as like gospel truth about what's going in and out of the game. So don't kind of complain to me going, oh, this thing isn't in and I really want it in and that kind of thing. This is just a rough priority list. I'm expecting this to change a lot. So I'm not expecting this to be kind of like the finished, this is exactly what we're working on. Having said that, I'm hoping that that this is kind of as close to the final list of things as we've got. I'm sure I've missed some stuff out. I've probably missed out the feature that you really want and I can't necessarily do anything about that right now. So whilst I was away, I did no coding, but I did a lot of thinking specifically about this. Combat damage and destruction of ships, and that's the next thing to be working on. But I should say about this board that if you are interested and you want to follow along and you want to kind of vote on stuff and comment on stuff, please do that. You are able to comment on any existing card, and you're also able to vote on it. So if you particularly want a card done or something, then feel free to just stick a date on it or stick a vote on it, and then we'll see that. So that would be cool. That would be fun. Hoping that people will kind of get into that and kind of interact, especially people who have access to the beta. So if you have access to the beta, you will hear from me very soon. I have a list of people and email addresses to invite to a special forum on the website, which will allow us to send you copies of the new builds as they come out. So I'm going to release, hopefully, reasonably regularly. The system actually will update automatically. What I will probably figure out how to do is to get our build system to actually post a note on the forums whenever a new build is available, which probably will be several times a day when I'm working on the game, and certainly several times a week. So yeah, if you've got insider access, you'll get access to that all very soon, this week definitely. If you haven't got insider access, there is still time. You can still buy it, unsurprisingly. If you go to soultrader.net, I will show you where to get that. And it will probably load really slowly because I'm in the middle of doing a live stream, but this is the site here. You can click back to the project or just scroll down, and you can still buy insider access if you would like to. And you're very welcome to kind of join in and kind of get involved. So awesome. That's it really. So without further ado, let's go through the game. For those of you who have yet to see it. So we'll just pull up Xcode here, make sure we've got the latest build compiled. Let's just jump into that. Okay, I think we're ready. Yeah, so we don't want to be on the Kickstarter demo, we want to be on master, and then we just want to do a quick build of the game. Let's make that full screen, and I'm a little bit bigger so that hopefully everyone can see it. Yeah, so the game's built. And in case you didn't realise, that was pretty quick. Let's try it again. Done. Excellent. So let's run the game. We're going to run it through a debugger. Okay, so here we are. So you can probably hear that right now. Oh no, I think I turned off the music. So there's a couple of things we can do immediately. We can take out Soul Trader Kickstarter demo. We will take that out right now. So can't have that sitting around there. So that'll be in layout. No, layout, main menu. Welcome. This one here. So we do not need that at all, but we do want. Do we want that? Yes, we want the version, definitely. Okay, so hopefully if I rebuild that, it should, in theory, gone. Brilliant. So we've got live code reloading, in case you haven't already seen that. Hey there, N3RKS. No idea how to pronounce that, but nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Thanks everybody for joining in. Okay, the game. So, in case you have forgotten, which is possible, this is how the game works. It generates a whole 200 years of backstory for your game. So when I click the generate button, what happens is that the game basically crunches through generations of people. So it tries to simulate their lives as accurately as possible. Enjoy my short holiday. What a week, that's pretty good. I wouldn't consider that to be that short. So I'm pretty happy with taking just a few days off. Right, okay, so we've generated a whole bunch of people here. We can scroll through the list. Let's see, who should we pick? Let's pick... no, don't like any of them. Phyllis. Slow to tire but unable to lift anything. Interesting. He is of legendary intelligence but slower moving. Not sure about that. What about her? Legendary wisdom but always getting tired. Fit and strong. Yeah, but I don't like a haircut. Oh, well, never mind. Okay, so this is me. I'm going to be born a boy, because I'm a boy. I am Kenneth Brogan Barrett, and that's my story. There's my mum. There's my brother. King, nice name. He's 4, a bit older than me. He's got good relationships. Anyway, I'm going to take after my father. I'm just going to scoot through this. So what you can do is you can basically choose everything that happens to you in the game. So I'm going to say I struggle with mathematics, but I worked hard at gym work because I want a reasonably strong character. And there he is. He is not very strong. Oh, great. Well, he would have been even less strong if I hadn't clicked worked hard at being strong. Okay, so then let's see what we want to do. I'm going to be a freelance trader. Okay, so now I'm in the game. There's a tutorial here. If you want to have a go at this, the demo, the Kickstarter demo is still available. You can still download that one if you go to our website, and you can actually go to the Kickstarter page and grab that. That demo will no longer change. I'm not updating that demo with anything new. It is still the same as this version of the game because I haven't really done much work on this yet, but as I work on this, only insiders will get the latest builds. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff here. Isaiah's the bar, nice. Closed, yep, it's 10 in the morning. So what you can do is you're basically this character. You don't start with a ship in this game, so I kind of want to find a ship as a first kind of port of call. Now, one way of doing that is to borrow one. Ooh, my mother's got one, but I don't know where she is. That's a bit of a problem. I'm not that close to her. She could be anywhere. What does she do for a living? Ooh, Kimberly died. Is that my sister? Oh, how sad. Okay, anyway. Let's see, what is she doing? She's a middle management job at the Commodities Exchange, so I could go and find her and ask her nicely for a ship. But to be honest, where's the Commodities Exchange? There it is. There she is. Close the tutorial. I can borrow her ship. Brilliant. Fantastic. The Abashed Monte. Nice ship. Okay, so let's go there. So this is her house. Clearly a couple of my brothers and sisters still live at home. My brother there, he's 16, yeah, that makes sense. And Cyrus, who's 14. So these are my brothers. They obviously live at home. I don't think I live at home. No, I'm pretty sure I don't. So let's click board. Okay, we're now on the ship, and now I can launch. Okay, so here's our ship, and now I can basically zoom around like this. So this game is kind of divided into 2 halves. We have the kind of talking and chatting, the history stuff, all of that kind of ship interaction stuff, and then we have Nurk. Oh, nice. Nice to see you. Right. Let's see. Yeah, the haircut's rubbish. Hopefully we'll be able to change the haircut in the future. I've just noticed that the chat isn't working. I'm really sorry about that. The on-screen chat appears to have not connected, but we'll have to leave that for another time. Okay, so there's a couple of things to show you that you may not have seen already. Firstly, I kind of added this cool firing thing. So just as a kind of basic weapon I'm going to be working on in a bit. Let's see if we can find somebody else. I don't know how jerky this is. My laptop, I'd love to buy a new laptop, but I can't afford it right now. Here we go. So we should be in good shape here. Let's just make sure that I'm not sending the sound to the sound file. Let's try that. Hopefully you can hear that now. Yeah, there we go. So hopefully you can see the lighting is all in. I can also start firing this thing, and you can see that, you hopefully be able to see that as I hit things, it kind of plays off the lighting there, which is quite cool. As it gets dark, oh, there you go, you can see that really well. That as I kind of shoot things, you can see how the lighting works. Now it's in the middle of the afternoon, so the sun is kind of directly above us, which means that it's not very difficult to it's kind of difficult to see the lighting, but in the dark, when the sun is behind us and everything's in shadow, it's all pretty cool. So yeah. Right. Okay, right. I'm in. Jump through there, and here we are. We can now go to the moon. And we can shoot things. But as you can see, the shooting is a bit dull. It doesn't do anything. and obviously the kind of little pellets, they're okay, but you know, they need a bit of work. Okay, but you can see that the lighting was all in and the explosions are all kind of in, which is kind of cool. I just need to improve the way that some of this stuff works, so that it actually has an effect on the ships that I shoot. Otherwise, it's a bit dull. And also, the ships don't actually fire back; they're just kind of done at this point. There's no proper AI in there for ships firing, but I quite like the lighting effects. It's quite cool when you're firing to see the the different bullets sort of zoom off the surface. It's all quite cool. I could sort of play with this all day. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get some coding done. So let's close the game. What I want to do is I want to think about how I'm going to do this. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. There's a nice interesting chat thing going on there, which is quite cool. Right, okay, so let's get some coding done, because that's why we're here. So I have to try and remember how this game actually works. It's been a week. I can't remember anything about anything. Right, okay, so what do we want to work on? We want to look at materials. So I've been doing a bit of research about different materials that we can have in the game. I've got, if you are interested, if you just joined us, you can grab this link. I'll stick it in the chat very quickly, which is the backlog. You can look at it, you can screw around with it. You're welcome to, you can't move stuff around because you don't have permission, but you can certainly comment and vote if you would like to. So do have a look at that if you'd like to. So what I'm looking at this point is the damage and destruction of ships. That's the next thing I want to do. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. I've done a bunch of work on this for removing stuff. I did a huge refactor just before I went on holidays, so that's all good. And then I've got a whole bunch of material stuff. So I've been looking at some of this kind of thing. I'll show you now. So kind of some of these kind of charts about density, so weight of materials effectively versus the stiffness of them. I've been looking at costs of materials, and I'm kind of happy with that. I'm also found a really interesting forum post about this. Here it is, about practical spacecraft armor from a few years ago. It's about 10 years ago, but things haven't changed dramatically. Well, they have in certain areas, but they haven't changed dramatically in that time. So that's been quite helpful. But I've basically come up with this at the moment, which is a basic list of things that ships can be made of. So I'm actually going to call that carbon because it's not quite carbon fiber. So, well, it kind of is carbon fiber. So I'm kind of assuming that we're kind of in the near future here, and some of this stuff won't have changed very much. So we've got strength of materials, so that's how much it's going to be able to deform before it breaks, basically. So if we thump something with a bullet or something like that, then if you have a steel ship, it's going to take quite a lot of punishing, and an aluminium ship isn't going to at all. Same with this. The stiffness basically describes how much something bends before it breaks. Now, I'm not convinced I'm going to use stiffness at this point. I think strength is probably enough for me, but what I am going to use is toughness, which is slightly different to stiffness or strength. Toughness is basically how much energy can a particular material absorb before it cracks and breaks. So this is kind of how much it can bend before it cracks, so that's down to the kind of basic impact, and this is how much relative kilojoules per meter squared it can actually absorb before it breaks. So it's interesting that steel has a high strength but a comparatively low toughness, which means that it won't deform, it won't break very easily. You can't bend it off or pull it apart, but you thump it enough times with a bullet and it will actually crack and smash quite reasonably quickly, compared to aluminium actually, which is much tougher, and titanium as well. Now the other thing that's important here is density. Steel is heavy, 9 tons per cubic meter. That's an expense. That's very heavy, and obviously aluminium is less heavy than that. Titanium, even less heavy. So I'm going to use these relatively in order to help people decide what material to build ships out of. And then we have the cost. So cost is pound per kilogram, as in pound sterling per kilogram. and you can see that some of this stuff is cheap, some of this stuff is super expensive. So these are now current real-world prices. So obviously we're making a game that's set to 200 years in the future, or thereabouts, or 300 years in the future. So things will have changed, but I kind of wanted to start off from this kind of point. Now, I don't think that these things are going to be, I'm kind of making a few assumptions here. The assumptions that I'm making is that we aren't going to be able to find any massively new super materials in 300 years. What we know about the solar system is pretty much what we know. The only thing that we are going to be able to use is something called Elysium, which is it is a super material, but I haven't quite decided. It's very expensive. I haven't quite decided what it's for yet. Probably for hyperdrive fuel, so it doesn't necessarily affect kind of basic armoring and things like that. The other thing that's really important is electrical resistance. You can see the carbon fiber is very electrically resistant. Some of this other stuff obviously isn't. Now I'm thinking about using that for the basis of electrical attacks when we put those in the future, and potentially scanning as well. If it's a highly conductive material, it should conversely be easier to shield, because it means that you can basically enclose your ship in a shield of that particular size. So that's the kind of thinking. Now the other thing is thermal conductivity and maximum service temperature. This is for thermal attacks. Now thermal attacks are things like lasers. So lasers work by superheating their targets with a material that has a high thermal conductivity, like for example aluminium or copper, which is why it's here, and carbon fiber as well. What that will do is it will spread heat very, very quickly, and also the maximum service temperature means that it will take a while to get up to that heat. So there's a lot of energy required. So if your thermal conductivity is high, what that means is it's going to cost quite a lot of watts in order to increase the size by a particular degree. So I'm kind of going for the fact that you know, with a particular kind of wattage, you kind of do, you know, going up by 200 degrees. So Aurora de Lafayette brings up a brilliant point about I don't have to do a study in real-world science. It's science fiction, just has to sound cool. Yeah, but I'm kind of geeky like that. I quite like to have my stuff have some kind of idea of real world, so that I'm not completely out there and making glaring errors. I'm a big fan of Dwarf Fortress and the stuff that that Toady has done on kind of real world materials. And whilst you know, it's quite cool to have someone with leather armor on actually have that modelled. You know, I'm not going to that kind of level, but I wanted to kind of get the relative densities right. What I'm not going to do is kind of use these values in real equations, because to be honest, I don't have the time to work out exactly how this would all work. So I'm just not going to do that. But having said that, what I'm planning on doing is kind of using this relatively. So for example, carbon fiber is very thermally resistant. And nanotubes as well conduct heat hugely well, for example. And I'm kind of imagining that all of these things will be reinforced with nanotubes and things like that. So, but having said that, steel is still basically stronger than aluminium, and it's realistic if people see that steel is, for example, stronger than aluminium or copper or nickel or whatever. So it's quite nice for each of these materials to have different characteristics. Now there's nothing to stop you shielding your ship with both, for example, aluminium and nickel, but that in order to get both the right thermal conductivity and the right kind of impact toughness. However, that will be very expensive, and it's something that you won't be able to do. It's both expensive really in terms of weight, so that you don't take on a huge amount of weight. So the idea is that it won't be just kind of one thing, like you're not going to have a steel layer or an aluminium layer. Like Aurora points out, it will likely go as tank armor, for example, so that they have ceramic plates with steel meshes in tank armor. They also have reactive armor, but we're not going to do reactive armor because it basically screws up in space. But yeah, there will be composites. I'm kind of imagining that all of these things will have composites. So, for example, the steel armor but steel armor with ceramics in it is very, very heavy. If you go back to the material selection charts, it's a problem to use something like that. So if we go for density, for example, and you look at look at ceramics, you can see that they're heavy. You know, that's the main problem with them. You know, they are. You can see the diamond is 3 tons per meter cubed, for example. You know, you've got some other ones here. You know, in terms of strength, you're looking at something. Diamond's too expensive, but you're looking at something like zirconia, for example. And you know, at the top end of that, the top lightest one that we've got currently is pretty strong. It's stronger than steel, actually, but it is just, you know, it's very heavy. It's as heavy as steel, so that's going to be expensive. So I'm not going to go into masses of detail about that. You know, what I am going to do is to kind of use that as a basic point. So I'm going to say something is made of steel, or something is made of, or primary material is steel, or primary material is aluminium, and so you can say I'm driving a titanium ship, or you know, a titanium alloy ship, and I'll assume that there are kind of futuristic alloys going on here, and futuristic nanotubes, and you know, composite layers, and Whipple shields, and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to go into all of the detail about that stuff. Okay, so that's the basics. That's where I've got to. So enough talk. It's time to get some coding done. So what I would like to do is to have each of the pieces of a ship made of one of these materials. So the first thing I want to do is actually I'm going to copy this into, as it is, and we'll go with this, into a data file. And I'm just going to call it materials.csv. Literally just do that. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to, let's grab that character, and then I'm going to replace that with a comma everywhere. Cool. So now I have the, actually that's a bit too wide, isn't it? No, that's probably okay. So I've got my CSV in an actual CSV file, and I'm just going to make this a bit smaller so I can actually see what's going on. Okay, so this is the yield strength, I should say, which basically means that if you hit it, it's not going to bend at all. It's going to basically not do anything to it until you get to a certain level. So basically, this is kind of your threshold. So if you bounce something that creates less pressure than this thing, then you are going to, it's not going to have any effect at all. Whereas this is the kind of total. So you hit something pretty hard like steel, it's going to break. Whereas if you hit aluminium, you might bang it a few times before it actually breaks. Also, what I think I'm going to do is with a Young's modulus, I'm going to use it as kind of like minimum amount of shielding that you need in order to do this. So it's going to be a function of the weight, which basically means that you need a greater thickness of this thing in order to have any effect. I think that's what I'm going to use it for, if I use it at all. Cost, I'm only going to use that relatively, and I probably need to think about, you know, researching whether or not some of this stuff is actually going to be a little bit easier to find in space, but I'm not sure about that. I haven't decided. Right. Okay. So now we have a materials spreadsheet. So well, CSV. So how do I load this? Well, that's actually quite easy. Do I have another copy of? No, I don't have another copy of my editor open. So I've just obviously got some old files lying around. So we have a whole bunch of different materials here. These are the methods that actually load various different particle systems and that kind of thing. So, okay. So let's actually just grab one of these, probably down to here. So load materials, and this is going to be the materials string store. So what I do is I load a list of strings. It's going to be the static data, this is going to be the materials store, this is going to be the materials, and then particle system count, yeah, I'm going to set that as well. Okay, so I need to think about how this is organized. Right, so we have a particle system count and a set of particle systems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a materials count. It would help if I can spell. You can see it's been ages since I did any kind of coding. How many materials do we support? 16. That's fine. It'll crash if there's a problem. That's fine. Okay, so once we've done that, we need to set particle systems to be 1. Where do we set that? Oh yeah, 2 places. So allow reloading of materials. So I'm going to just set that to be material count is 1, and this is material store. Material store, right, so up to 32 fields. This is all fine, and the field count, that depends on, oops, wrong one, no, that one. Where's the CSV? There it is. So how many columns have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns at the moment. Okay, so what we basically need to do is to decide what we're going to do with these things. So we have a material, we're going to create a new material, and we're going to say, probably just push it as a struct. Oh no, actually no, that's fine. What we could do is in new state.h, where we create these things, we'll just have it, we'll have it there. And we can say state material plus, no, not hash, plus whatever the index is. That's what we're doing here, isn't it? No, oh no, not quite. State material count plus plus. Right, so now we have a copy of the material that we're on right now. So that's reasonably easy. And notice that we're leaving the 0th material as a blank material. That's the plan. Oh, interesting comment, Aurora. Thinking defensive systems are going to be always to be a response to weapon systems. So the way around to think about it is what weapons will the spacecraft mount, and then think of counters. Lasers counter is heat dissipation, railguns need to be absorbed or deflected, missiles will be shot down and misdirected. Really don't want a nuke to hit you. Correct. Yes. So I missed out a whole chunk of things there. You are right that it's based around the weapon system. So the weapon systems that we've got are lasers, we've got guns, and we've got missiles. We are not. I don't think we're going to use nukes just because of the scale of the game. Nukes would be a completely counterproductive thing to fire because they would detonate over a massively wide area, and you have to fire them from a long, long way away for it to not kind of have a big effect on you. Now, it's interesting that nukes actually don't have a huge amount of range in space. If they hit you dead on, you're toast. You know, there's nothing that can protect you. Whereas if it doesn't hit you dead on, then it doesn't have much effect, which is interesting. However, it will have a massive effect if you're near a planet because of the atmosphere dissipation and the radiation. So that's quite interesting. But so probably I'm not going to do nukes at this point. I'm thinking about doing kind of obviously super high explosives, possibly mix in some of my super materials there to have some kind of nice effect. Now there's not much that can protect you against that except for really, really tough armor, like some sort of nickel armor, probably nickel super composite or something, which would be quite fun. But that's very, very heavy. So therefore, the weapons that you need to create, you've got either basically any kind of radiation beam. You would need something with high density. So you've got nickel or copper or steel, something or lead. Lead is just impractical though, so because it's just so heavy. But something like that would be good. Neutron beams, funnily enough, require light materials. So for example, helium and hydrogen. Basically just a water tank would be good enough. So we've got the kind of idea would be some kind of phaser or particle accelerator beam gun, which is what we've kind of got. So that would be one thing. Then we've also got the thermal conductors for the kind of laser bolt stuff as well. So it could boil down to just basically a light style attack which heats a target, or a gun which physically fires shells into a target. That's probably roughly where I'm going. And then you've got high explosive missiles as well. That's probably where I'm going to start with, and we'll see how fun that is, and then we'll improve that. But the first thing to do would be to actually get this stuff into the game. So that's what I want to do now. So I've got the hash of I've got the material here. I've got the hash of the material. Then I will also want to put it into a component lookup of some description. I will definitely want to do that. So material lookup. So we now know which system we've got. and then we've got system lookup, and then we just want to just pop it in. So what I'm doing here is we're just loading a new material. We're saying that the entity ID, which is the thing we've got, is just the hash, and then we've got a material count. So the system lookup component index is the thing we want. I think, yes, that's it. So that just does a lookup, and then we can just figure out how we want to store these numbers. So we've got a few things that we want here. We want the material, and I want the yield strength to be CSV UN. Is that UN32? Yeah, it'll be UN32, which is just a number. And then we want something like, well, we've got 13 people online. Hello, everyone. It's kind of busy today. I'm guessing that's because you all saw it on the Kickstarter update. I wonder if you saw it on the Kickstarter update, just let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting to know whether or not that's where people are coming from. So material yield strength. So that's just that number, that's the first column here, so I should just be able to grab that from fields 1. Okay, and then we've got Young's modulus is field strength 2, and then we've got toughness, which field strength 3, is that, these are all numbers yet, and then we've got density, fields 4, and then we've got cost. Now this is going to be a real. And then we've got electrical resistance, field 6, and then we've got thermal conductivity, which will be the same, will be reals, and then we've got max service temperature is 8. Okay, so that should be everything. Now when I compile that, it's not going to work at all because we haven't got the material type. So let me define that somewhere, probably up here is fine. Struct material. Okay, so my vim config is all available at, people always ask this. There you go. So feel free to grab them from there. I'm very open to that. Okay, so we've got these things here that we want. So I'm just going to get rid of that for a minute. So we want a UN32 for the yield strength, UN32 for Young's modulus, a UN32 for the toughness. There's no real reason they have to be UN32s, but in fact it's probably not necessary. I'm just going to go for reals the whole way across because they don't need to be precise. That's just confusing otherwise. Toughness, density, cost. Right, electrical resistance, thermal conductivity. Now, like I said before, if you missed it, I'm not going for, these are real world numbers, but I'm just using them roughly. So that gives me a kind of basis to kind of think about what I want to do. Okay, so let's think about this. So when I run that, it doesn't work because we have no member name materials, and I did actually mean material, not materials. And then we've got state material, and then material lookup. Oh yes, we don't have one of those yet, so we need system lookup. We need to copy this basically. Do we need this to be as big? Probably not, no. That's fine, and this is going to be material lookup. There we go, so that allows us just to track the hash of the material, the hash of the name, to the this thing here, to the column, sorry, the row. Right, so let's just do this. So we want uppercase to there. Let's make all these uppercase just to kind of be accurate about it, and then we want that to be carbon fiber like that. Okay. see what's going down. So now, if I run the game, it should be loading materials. In fact, it won't do a thing because it didn't do anything at all because I didn't actually load the materials. So load particle systems happens there. And again, we actually need to load these things. So this is going to be material store. I don't want that to be particle store, I want it to be material store. And this is going to come from material data. Now material data isn't actually defined anywhere. We need the new state blob data, we need particle system data, material data, and then inside the game, when we actually load this thing, we actually want to say where we get them from. There we go. That should compile at least. Okay, see if that worked. Hooray! Now it looked like it worked, but obviously we don't know it worked. So let's actually just jump in and make sure it's doing something sane. So I'm just going to head to the bugger and just break there, make sure that it's actually doing what I expect it to do. Loading real values, etc. Cool, so it's getting that far. It should have, let's see, what have we got here? Just make this a bit bigger. It should have a decent row. Yes, it's got steel. There we go. And it should have fields. So it's got all of these. So that means that when we get all the way down to, say, there, the material itself should have steel's values. And it does. Awesome. Fantastic. So that's working. I'm going to trust the material lookup is actually working. That should be fine. Cool, that's working. So let's just say, let's just check that in. Okay, so we'll look through the changes. Yeah, oh, I need to remove that first. So remove old Kickstarter demo message. And then let's see. When I check stuff in, I always go through it line by line. I know that sounds crazy, but you wouldn't believe the number of bugs I've caught that way. Okay, so yeah, that's the function we added. That looks good to me. Yep. Yep, that's fine. Yes, also fine. Fine. Oh, and we also need the CSV. Basic material import. Okay, so far so easy. So now what we need to think about, that's a good starting point for kind of getting back into the code. Now, we need things to be made of these things. Okay, so when we have some code for, say, creating a new ship, that's what this is, we push a new entity and we push various components onto that entity. And then actually what we do is we push new other entities which represent modules on those ships. So each module on a ship, like a gun or a missile, missile, or a missile launcher or an engine or anything like that, also has is an entity with its own components. So that being said, oh, interesting. Aurora's saying, I see where you're coming from, makes sense in a game. Combat at relatively short ranges, yeah. Otherwise you have to deal with fire control over distances where you're not able to operate in real time due to distance. Yeah, I'm just not interested in doing that. I don't want lots of automated things flying about shooting people. I'm just not interested in it. It's probably how it would go, but it's not fun in a game. Long range combat wouldn't be that much fun. No, it really wouldn't. So the thinking is to go with three basic types of weapon, and maybe electrical if I can manage it. So we're going for thermal, so lasers. We're going for physical guns, which shoot things into things. And then we are probably going for some kind of missile or something like that, which would probably just explode stuff. It'd be like a bomb detonating. So that'll be similar, actually quite similar to a gun. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either have a high explosive or kind of some sort of armor-piercing round. So it'll be one of the two. I'm not sure exactly how that will work yet, but that's kind of the thinking. Okay, back to the code. So each of these things wants to be made of something. So we already have a few components that we can potentially stick, which thing we are made of on it, but I'm not sure if that's the right way to go. So we have nameable components, we have renderable, that's not the right place for it. We have lights, that's not right. We have more renderable stuff. We have enterers. No, cargo holders, spatials. Spatials potentially. What does a spatial have in it? Entity, radius in meters, it's a basic size, and its position and how it's moving. I'm not even sure if that's necessary, the radius. It's really position. That's not the right place. Collidable, no, that's not right, because collidable could be used for a number of different things. I think I probably need a new component type. That's what I'm thinking. Something that I can just tack on. So for example, I could do something like here. I could say push physical object. Okay, so basically what I'm doing there is saying I want that to be made of something. And in the same way, I've got a headlight here, which just contains a renderable and a light. That's not made of anything, not worried about that. What other modules do I have? Here we go. Funnily enough, I think that this belongs down here with the other modules. Okay, let's pop that down there. Right, so I have lights, which I don't care about. Engines I do, definitely. So what the engine is made of is quite important, because you could potentially shoot the engine off a ship, which might be quite fun. So I'm going to say push physical object, whatever the module ID is. And then I also want to say material key equals sol hash, and we'll just go with something like steel, or probably nickel. Although in reality it will be made of a bunch of different stuff. Let's say it's really the outer casing. Primary material. Now I need to think about how the trade-offs for this work. But we'll go with this to start with. And again, there's another engine here, and we'll make the primary material steel. And then this is all kind of placeholder code at the moment. It's all debug code. What is this thing made of? The hyperdrive. The hyperdrive can be made of nickel. For now, I'm not really sure yet. Then we have a gun that goes on the front of the ship. And that is going to be made of, say, titanium. Okay. Now, none of that will work. None of that code will work at all, because we don't have a push physical object, but we will have. So, let's find the code that actually adds these things. So, the things, oops, not there. Things I need to do are basically add a little macro for creating these things. Now, the way that I create a component which sits on an entity is to add them like this. So I want to say physical object, and then I want to say I want to add a physical object component here. In fact, it doesn't need to be like that. In fact, because it's like spatial, it's going to need to have lots of things, because lots of things are made of stuff. So it's going to need to have lots and lots of potential components in the system. Okay, so once I've done that, then when I compile, it'll say we don't know what a physical object is, because these macros basically set up storage and manipulation of components. And in order for that to work, I need to have created one of them. So, physical object. First thing we need in a physical object is an entity ID. It's very important, otherwise it won't work. And the other thing we need is just a primary material. And that's going to be called primary material hash, so I'll change that. So that's going to be that. There we go, is that all of them? Yeah. Cool. So now, hopefully that should compile. It does. So now each of my bits on the ships will also have physical physical objects for them, so that's quite useful. So if I was to now run the game, let's see. Oh yeah, I've got my materials that load. Let's just start in space. So this is just me starting in space. I've got some kind of test code here that allows me to just kind of fly around and see stuff. Now I can't click on any of this stuff yet, but what I would really like to be able to do is to see the materials that the ship is made of. Need to think about this. Let's just get the headlights going. Yeah, we've got a couple of bugs here with some of these textures. You can see here that there's kind of a halo around that ship, which really shouldn't be there. So I'm not sure whether I'm not barking up the wrong tree with this. I need to think about whether or not this is the right way of doing this. Also, I've just noticed the lights are kind of weird when you go underneath something there over the top of something else. Yeah, I need to think about just how that is going to work. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure about this whole primary material thing. It could be that this is kind of a bad idea. It really depends on whether or not, let's shut this for a minute, making an engine of a primary material of nickel makes sense. I mean, maybe all engines need to be made of nickel in order for them to work. And you don't get a choice, otherwise it will just melt. Or maybe that's down to hardening around the outside. This is not quite the same thing as armour. I've got a feeling that armour will be added as a component. Potentially it'll be a component on a module, so you'll be able to encase something in another material. So that's not the same thing. So if there's armour, that will be blown through first, basically. This is more what it's made of. This is okay. We can go with this. What I'm trying to get at is that, let's see, when I load the game again, let's just quickly generate a history and head outside. I want to see what a particular component is made of. I think that's where I want to get to. So let's see if we can get that in before we run out of time. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom through this as quick as I may. There's Kenneth Jackson. Right, here we are, Kenneth. Father. Doesn't have a location. What does he do for a living? Is he on this planet? He's moving to London. No, he isn't. Fine. Okay, no problem. I will head to the bank, chat very nicely to someone, and make a loan inquiry. Okay, now I have enough money. I can head to the spaceport and grab one of these ships. The gainful food. That looks perfect. Great. So now, when I click on this, click on that. What I want to be able to say is, in specifications, I want to see the material we're made out of, which would be quite cool. So, if that's the case, then I need to change the code inside game.cpp specifications. There we go. Got some code here which displays ship specifications. So we need to think about how that works. So we've got rotational acceleration. How does this work? Display ship specifications. Oh yeah, so we just call it in lots of different ways. Okay, so we could just say material. Let's just try that. See what that looks like. GUI ship material. And then we just add it. Which means that if we go to the string code, so all I'm trying to do here is try to get the material that we're made of. which means that we need material, and that's going to have to be material buffer. And then let's go for char material buffer 256. Create a buffer, and then we'll display the material, which will be, ooh, no, that's not how we do it. We do material. We've got a ship ID here. So we should be able to say find physical object from the state and the ship ID. So this gives us the component. Physical object. And then we know what the hash is, so we should be able to say, how do we do this? There's a lookup that needs to happen. We have a similar thing here for find particle system. I'm going to have to do the same thing as this. And I'm probably going to create a source material CPP at this point. Fine. Sorry, I'm not explaining everything I'm doing here. This is a little bit of plumbing. What I want to be able to do is say material equals find material from the state, and then the physical object primary material hash. And then I want to be able to say, and this is just going to be the material. Do I even need that? I don't even need that. I'm not thinking. What I want to do is simply say it's going to be, the hash is going to literally be something like this. Physical object, material hash, primary material hash. And then material. Okay, so that's going to give me the string hash, and then I want the display string is going to basically be the material hash. And then all I need to do is just point that to the description string. Okay. Now, what I've done there is I've basically assumed that we have a string for this thing. So, material steel is steel. And now obviously I need to go to my material CSV and look at what we've got. Material aluminium. Now notice that I'm spelling it correctly as opposed to incorrectly. Slightly controversial. But you know, I'm English. Okay, titanium. Titanium. Then we've got copper. I'm not even sure if I'm going to use copper, but it's quite a good compromise in terms of it's very, very heavy, but it's got great conductivity, and it's not very strong, but it's reasonably tough. So I can imagine having a massively bent out of shape ship, which nevertheless is intact, and also is resistant to laser fire. So that's what I was thinking with that one. Nickel. And then carbon fiber, carbon fiber, can't spell. Okay. Now, if we wanted to do an American spelling like that, for example, then we could create a new string CSV to be American spellings. But at the moment, this is English, UK, British spelling, ENGB, as it were, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so that basically all this code does is it grabs the physical object, it grabs the material hash, so it creates one of these things, and then it decides which string it is. And then the only other thing we need to do is that inside the game, that's it, keep up, we need GUI ship spec material. So this is the actual label. Primary ally Let's go with this. Okay, so something like that. And then we can change this to be, we could even say super alloy, for example. And carbon fiber, nanotube, reinforced. Let's make some stuff up.